I think he's in the past.
He's in the past like me.
He's in the past.
Oh, he's catching up. Watch. He's like,
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to 2 Hours on a Sunday. I'm Brian.
and I'm Nick, and today we have a very special guest, Mr. Ian Taylor.
Hi, how's it going?
It's going pretty good, Now, for those of you listening, Ian is basically my older brother if I didn't have an older brother.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah,
That's basically the plot synopsis.
Yeah.
How did you guys feel when you first saw this movie?
I just thought like that was the best movie, just straight up like capital M movie I've seen in a long time. Like it just had everything. It hit all the notes. You walked out feeling like, holy crap, that was exciting. It was pretty sick.
First thing I thought, actually through the whole movie, was, heck yeah. Straight through the whole movie, it was adrenaline the entire time. I loved it.
Now, Ian, you and I saw this movie together.
We did, yeah.
When we walked out, I think my first words was, wow. And we both said, I was like, this is the first time I've walked out of a theater in probably a few years where I was like, that movie was amazing.
Definitely the first time since like Infinity War Endgame that I walked out and was like, and even that doesn't count because it has everything leading up to it. This was a standalone, and I'm not even like a really big Top Gun fan of the original. So like it actually didn't have that going for it. It just was that good on its own.
I agree. I watched the first one, but it didn't really hit me.
I got you got all the pop culture stuff from it, but it's not like.
But this movie, this is our Top Gun.
Yeah, this one is the one that
their generation.
I totally agree. I grew up with Top Gun. Like I watched it every year a couple times with my dad. It was like the thing that I watched. This beat it. Definitely.
Yeah. Yeah, like it's a better movie in every possible way. And it's just a good movie, period.
I think that also has to do with how veteran Tom Cruise is at this point in his career. Like he's a producer and he controls everything and he knows how to make a film now. And it's 30 years later, he's changed totally and he's brought everything to the table.
Yeah, he was just the star then. Now he knows everything you need to get the audience excited.
Before we dive into the plot and how this movie flows and how we're going to talk about the film, I have a couple fun facts for you guys. If you might know these and you might not know these, but the plane he works on at the beginning and flies at the very end of the film is Tom's very own plane.
I did know that. Yeah, I found that out after the movie, but pretty crazy fact that it's his own actual aircraft.
Yeah, P-51 Mustang is his own plane.
Oh, it's a Mustang. Nice.
Another one, Lewis Pullman, who plays Bob, is the son of Bill Pullman, and his father actually flew an F-18 in Independence Day. So it's like a nice little back and forth there. His son's flying one in Top Gun and he flew one, 20 odd years ago.
There you go. Cool. That's a new fact. Yeah, that's cool.
And then one more, just to end it. Miles Teller learned the entire song for Great Balls of Fire and they only used 10 seconds of it in the movie.
Yeah, he wasn't even like the focus for most of it. He was like faded out to Tom outside.
Yeah.
Huh. Well,
but yeah, he said, but they filmed the whole music video,
the whole thing, yeah,
it worked out. But yeah, he's like, yeah, I learned the whole song and everything.
It's a good use of his time. If you're gonna learn a song, you could learn worse songs. Yeah.
And before we dive in, this film is Oscar nominated, guys, and this film actually won the Oscar for Best Sound Design.
I can see that.
Crazy! Congrats!
Yep.
Way to go, Top Gun!
Making it to the Oscars. Introducing the cast, we have Mr. Tom Cruise, who plays Maverick, Pete Maverick Mitchell. We have Miles Teller, who plays Bradley Bradshaw, who plays Rooster. We're going to go by call signs the whole movie.
The last time I watched it, I didn't even realize his name was Bradley Bradshaw.
Yeah, me neither. I was just going to say.
I only got was Bradshaw and Rooster.
Yeah. I was like, why did you name him Bradley Bradshaw?
Yeah.
But yeah, his name's Rooster. We have Glenn Powell playing Hangman, Jennifer Connelly playing Penny. We have John Hamm playing Cyclone. We have Monica Barbaro playing Phoenix. We have Lewis Pullman playing Bob, Jay Ellis, Payback, Danny Ramirez, Fanboy, and Val Kilmer reprising his role as Iceman. And just to give a little plot for people who haven't seen it, I'm sure everyone's have seen this movie.
Go see it. First thing, here's the plot.
First thing, you gotta watch it. Yeah, after 30 years, Mav is still a top naval aviator, but he's confronted by ghosts from his past when asked to lead a group of graduates on a mission that demands the ultimate sacrifice as if they're chosen to fly. One of those graduates happens to be Goose's son from the first movie, Miles Teller's character Rooster.
Sticking with the bird call signs.
Miles Teller actually came up with his own call sign because he wanted to relate it to his father.
I didn't know that.
They were allowed to pick their own call signs.
Their own names. That's cool.
Yeah. Now, opening scene in this movie, I don't think you could do it any other way than having Danger Zone.
Oh yeah, like it's
right.
Yeah, you got to set the tone immediately and be like, "Listen, this is what you came here for. We're gonna get it out of the way right off the bat."
Transitioning from the credits to Tom Cruise in Desert California, where he's working on his personal plane, and it's basically going down memory lane. We see him walk past the photo, his desk there with all the photos. You see Goose, you see all the stuff that he has. You see this is the first time you see Miles Teller's character because he has a picture of him on his little desk workshop area, and he goes over, gets his jacket on. The jacket. He picks up the aviators off the thing.
Gets the bike, the old bike.
Gets the bike,
not something new.
Yeah, Kawasaki. He pulls the tarp off of it, and he just goes. And fun fact, California has a strict policy about wearing helmets. Tom Cruise doesn't care. He's going no helmet or whatever. It's like it doesn't even matter. They have a strict they have a law, and he's like, nope, I'm just doing it. I think this scene, because we also get when he goes over to the calendar and he see Mach 9 on the calendar, that's like his goal for going towards the army base, because he has to fly Mach 9 today in order to save the fighters from being pushed out. The fighter
I think that even like at that point, he doesn't even realize that they're under threat yet. Like it was just a normal day at the office. Today, we're going to hit our milestone and keep working. It wasn't even on the radar that they're coming in to shut it down. So that just adds the extra urgency, where it's like that's how he is under pressure. 5 seconds ago, it was a normal day, and now it's do or die, and it doesn't even. He's good to go. Like
because as soon as he pulls up to the base, he wants Mach 10, or else everything's going to be shut down. And then they're like, well, today's Mach 9. And he's like, oh, it doesn't matter. He's coming down to shut us down right now. And then Tom gives the line, well, he's not here yet.
That was what I thought watching it. Yeah.
Yeah. And then he says, let's give him Mach 10. And honestly, after he says, let's give him Mach 10, kicks off one of the greatest sequences I've ever seen.
Yeah. And it just shows so much about that character in the moment without having to do a lot of like explanation or anything. You know that he's going to be a bit of a rebel. Like, well, he's not here yet. We got time. Like, and he's going to push.
So from that scene, we cut to Tom putting on his gear. He's got the Maverick helmet on, which honestly looks so cool. He's getting ready to go into, he's getting ready to go into the Dark Star, and he gets in, and the way they filmed this scene, it looked absolutely incredible. And when he took off, the Admiral was standing there. And this wasn't meant to happen, but the building next to him, the roof of the whole building came off, and he stood there like a champ.
Explodes, yeah. The guy just watches it. Like, Ed Harris is a legend.
Yeah, so they just used the take because it wasn't supposed to happen, but he stood his ground and it looked fantastic. When he's in the air, the wide shots for this scene alone, you can use any of them as a wallpaper.
Oh yeah, like when it's like above, looking down at the earth, you get like the day turn, like the smoke screen. Yeah, it's just
absolutely incredible,
fantastic.
And then the sun rises on him, and he says, "Talk to me, Goose," and it has like the sway of music in the back, and like it cuts to the super wide shot when he's doing that curl, like you were just mentioning, and it looks incredible. And he passes Mach 9, and he's going, and he gives. I don't even think there was music playing, but like you can hear the sound of the plane going, and like.
I think just
the
like
intense look on his face. Yeah, the lights going by, and he's just going, and he gives like the come on, and it's like he hits Mach 10, and it's the most. It's like you think you're at the end of the film. That's how intense the scene was.
It's that much excitement.
Yeah, he hits Mach 10, and then everybody's hyped, and then there's a sense of calm. Like the plane settles, and it goes back to Tom, and he's just sitting there, and he pulls a Maverick, and he goes just a little bit more.
You gotta go.
He gives it the 10.0.
His buddy knows too. As soon as it hits there, and it's been more than a couple seconds, and they haven't slowed down, he's just like,
oh no!
Like you can just tell.
And then he hits 10.3, and everything breaks down, and it cuts to black, and then it cuts to another beautiful shot of the plane exploding. Like another wallpaper. So after this scene was done, what did you feel like you were in for one of the greatest movies just after the scene alone?
Yeah, if that's how you open it, you just know that you're gonna hit it.
I totally agree. That was probably the best, I don't know how long it was, 8-minute intro scene that I could ever ask for. And being a
Yeah.
fan of the original, I thought, man, this is very consistent with like Maverick as a character. Nothing was lost on him in between in this time skip. So it felt like I'm going back to that same level of excitement right away.
Yeah, he's that classic personality. It's which is something that you can lose when you go back to those old characters, like some of the Star Wars ones, and all of a sudden Luke maybe isn't acting like Luke always did, sort of thing. But yeah, for this, you bring back Mav, and he's just good old Mav.
I think that's also catered to Tom Cruise being in charge of this film,
Yeah,
and he has that consistency behind him. From this scene, we're gonna gloss over it just because it's just a small scene, but it's the cafe scene where he's landed and he gets the drink of water and he just chugs it,
yeah.
and he asks. It's the one of the most corny lines in the movie, but it gets a laugh every time. Where he's like, "Where
Yeah.
am I?" and the kid goes, "Earth."
Yeah.
But it's actually kind of funny.
It's so good. It's funny,
It
but
is.
it's like it's a good line, but it's just like the kid delivered it well.
Yeah,
But it was a good like he's back on Earth. It's like it grounds them. It's like the grounding joke to bring everything back to the level
yeah.
of what we
You were
just
you were
witnessed.
flying up here, and that's yeah. I did like the humor overall in the movie like that, where it didn't ever feel forced. Like there's a lot of times where you can tell this is supposed to be a joke, but it's not really funny. But
Yeah.
like even like
Yep.
when they brought the admiral in and said, "Oh no, did anybody introduce her? You want some coffee?" Like after he's breaking up when the radio is pretending, it's just like it's actually funny. It's good.
Yeah.
It's just
Exactly.
yeah.
And then from that scene, we have Admiral Kane talking to Tom Cruise. You know, he's still a captain, and he should be like a 3-4 star admiral, and he should be all this, all that, but he's still there, and he has no other option. Like he wants to, ground him for good, and he should no longer be flying in the Navy. And then he tells him that they're sending him back to Top Gun. Flowing from there, we get the bar scene, which honestly, it encapsulates all the characters so well without feeling like you don't have to take time to get to know these characters, because they did it in a way where when they're introduced, they're like trash talking each other, and it's
You
all
learn about
flowing
who
conversation.
they are and their history and how they know each other. It's like, yeah, that's how you introduce people without having to like just tell. It's show don't tell. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
you know after that first second that Hangman is cocky, but he's also has the skill to back it up.
Yeah, it was a good scene, because then it's not like you get everybody's backstory. It's like, oh, one sentence here of just trash talk about how Hangman leaves everybody out to dry is the reason why he's
Mhm.
named Hangman. And then you get Phoenix and you get
Bob.
Bob. They're like,
Bob.
oh, who's this guy? And they pan over to him, and he's just wiping nuts off of himself.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, I'm Bob. I'm Bob. He's like, you got a call sign? He's like, just Bob.
No, just me.
Just Bob. And then it shows the whole group in a matter of like 3 minutes, and you're already like, okay, I'm in for these characters. You get introduced to Penny as well, and you find out they have a history, and it's so subtly done, where it's like you can tell there's sparks there, but they
Yeah.
don't want. It's a will they
You
won't
wanna-
they
it's
right at the
yeah.
beginning. It's a really flirty thing, and she's like, "Don't give me that look," and he's like, "I'm not giving you a look," because
Yeah.
that's the thing of the whole movie.
Nobody
is Tom,
likes his looks.
Yeah. No one likes his looks. He's the only one he has, and he's like, "I'm not giving you a look." He's flirting with her. He says, "Oh, you look good though," and then she rings the bell, and it causes. That's one of the rules.
Yeah.
If you disrespect a lady or leave your phone on the table, you
Yeah.
buy everyone around. There's like
I liked
100
it.
people in the bar.
Yeah. Like,
Yep.
because she was going to ring it the whole time because of the phone, but she waited
Yeah.
until he just crossed that line to be like, yeah, and there you go.
Yeah. You didn't want to go there, but you did, and now
Mhm.
you're costing everybody a drink. And it's so funny because later she has him tossed out because his credit card doesn't work.
Yeah.
But the people who toss him out are the graduates.
Who have to then face him the next day.
Yeah.
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 Yep.
Before we move on, this when Hangman goes to the jukebox machine, he presses number 86.
Mhm.
And when he presses
86
86,
is
that's
him.
a callback as when the first movie came out. So I think that was a little
Mhm.
cool tidbit before Miles Teller goes on to play the piano in Great Balls of Fire to give us a little more flashback of what happened with him and Goose.
I think 86 might also be a reference to when you take down a plane. I think that
Yeah.
I've heard that, like, if you 86 them, it's like it's when you take down an enemy plane. That might be
That's cool.
something I just
Could
made
be a
up
double.
right now.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
Hey, I like the fact if that's a real one. So yeah, we have when Maverick is talking to Cyclone when he first gets to Top Gun. They're telling him, they're briefing him on the mission, right? And he thinks they're asking him for his advice that he's going to be flying the
to do it.
missions.
Yeah, because he's
Yeah.
Mav. I'm the best. You
Yeah.
want the best. Here I am.
Yeah, and Cyclone's like, no, you don't understand. You're not my first or last choice. You weren't even on my list. You're just going to be you're teaching how to fly this mission to the graduates. And that's when because he's not Tom, that's when Mav, he's not a teacher, right?
Are they
he's
really
a pilot.
that different?
They're not different. They're the same
No.
character.
Yeah.
Because he's a pilot. He's not a teacher, and he's gone through this before. So I think that added a little bit of tension because he's like, you know why I can't teach this course because Goose's son is there, and he's like, you think it'll be a problem? And he's like, they don't really know, but he's forced into this situation and he has to take it because he has no other option.
And but at that point, you didn't realize that Iceman's like his guardian angel until you realize when he says, you weren't even on my list, but this is how it is. And that's when you start to get that relationship where you find out how he's always looking out for him.
Because he would have been canned a long time ago if it wasn't for Iceman.
Yeah.
So it just builds that relationship further. It cuts to the graduates and they go to introduce Mav as their teacher, and everyone's like, oh no.
Yeah, they're talking him up, just saying, oh, who's coming in? And then,
who's going to teach us? Who are they going to get to teach us? And then it's just funny because they just tossed him out of the bar the night before, and they're like, oh God.
Yeah, really, this guy?
Mav gives him the whole speech. He's like, this is the handbook.
Yeah, the classic.
You
throw it in the trash.
Throw it in the trash. It's like
it.
they know the handbook too. And that's when he's like, I'm going to test your limits and I'm going to find out for myself. And which cuts into the first non-solo Tom Cruise flying scene. And he's like, good morning, aviators. And it kicks off one of the greatest training sequences.
That scene sold me on the movie by itself when they used that as a promo. And I didn't even wasn't on my radar. That thing comes out. It's like, okay, I need to see this movie right now.
It's fast. Yeah. It's exciting.
And it builds character development.
Yeah,
exactly.
Like the bar, you get to learn about these characters.
Yeah, their confidence, their lack of confidence.
Each one of them, their personality comes out as they're flying, so you get a little bit more about them, but action's happening all at the same time. This part, when Rooster goes in, Mav pulls the craziest stunt I think I've ever seen in a film, and he does the upside down Cobra maneuver, and he's like, oh, where's Mav? And he's like, I'm right here, and he's flying over top, and then this is still when Rooster and him have like huge beef.
They haven't worked anything out yet.
Yeah,
this is
nothing.
Like,
they're
as raw as can be.
Yeah, and then they just go dive bomb. They're spinning 360. They're caught in this loop, and they're just trash talking back and forth. And Tom's like, "Listen, you can pull out whenever." And he's like, I'm not doing nothing." It's like, I can hang with you. Kind of, they're going back and forth with each other because we'll find out later that Maverick actually pulled Rooster's papers, and he set him back 4 years in his career. Other than just, losing his father, there's also that dynamic as well.
So Rooster holds this against him, not knowing why he did it, that he has it in his best interest. And Mav's just trying to look out for him. Even now, he's trying to force him, okay, you've made this mistake, and I'm not going to abandon you. I'm going to make you get out of it. You're going to learn how to fix this.
And then when they do separate from each other, and they're doing the ground dog fighting, and he's chasing them because they're doing the fake bullets where they just hear the tone, the beep.
Give me tone.
When they hear the tone, give me tone. This is when we first hear the "Don't think, just do." This is the first time we hear it in the film.
I didn't notice that.
This is the first time he says, "Come on, kid, don't think, just do." Because at this point, Rooster, he's behind him and he can take him out, and this will be the first time Mav goes down, but he can't pull it. He can't land it. So Mav says, "All right," and he pulls back and he gives him the tone, and he's doing the 200 push-ups. So that's the first time we see that Rooster, he doesn't have it in him to really believe in himself. He doesn't believe in himself yet, but Mav does. So that's the whole training sequence looked absolutely phenomenal, and it just builds every character in a way that you already know who everybody is in the first 20 minutes and what their personalities are. And it's like, okay, this is what they'll do for each other. This is the length they'll go. Hangman's going to leave everybody out to dry.
Yeah, he's looking out for one person only.
Yeah. And then he reams Bob a little bit. He's like, oh, what does Bob even stand for? Baby on board?
Baby.
And then, Bob, he's so quiet and personal. Yeah, he's Phoenix's backup, right? He's working the radar and stuff.
He's all the controls.
Yeah, and she's like, don't feed into him. And he's like, I'm just, he's just there. He's just a sweet little Bob. That's what his role is. And then after that scene, Phoenix goes up to Rooster and she's like, what was that about, And that's when he tells her that Mav pulled my papers. And that's that quick little scene. So, Nick, what was your opinion on the scene in general and how they managed to capture F-18s in that way with the cameras?
It's beautiful. It was the fact that we have the technology and the capabilities to actually record fighter jets now. Like, it just gets me shaking. Because in the original, it was all little planes, like
Yeah.
on sticks moving around, and it, they did a good job for what they had, and I was sold on it when I first watched it. But now it's real planes. It's like, what else can
They're
I ask for?
actually doing that. Like,
Yeah, and you're in
Which
the
is
cockpit
honestly
with them.
insane.
Yeah, it's wild, and you see their reactions. You see them interact with each other as it's happening in real time, and like you guys said, their characters are developing as we see this. It's no scene is wasted in this movie, and I think this is one of the most perfect examples of that. We see Rooster not believing in himself. We see Hangman's character kind of shine through here, and we see Maverick
yeah.
trying to push Rooster because he has it in him. It's just not there yet. And I think what I really like about Maverick is he doesn't care. He doesn't care about what you think you can or can't do. It's like he knows you've all passed Top Gun. You're all here for a reason, and he's got to choose a handful of pilots. So he's going to pick the best one. So do your best, and that's it. And work and figure out how to work as a team.
Mm-hmm.
It's all pressure. It's because that's how you get better. You got to put some pressure on yourself, and it's an amazing display of character. I love it.
And it's like Hangman and Rooster are so opposites, where Hangman has the most confidence in the world. But if he would just, toss a little bit of that to Rooster to give him the belief in himself, because he's clearly passed the program and he's a killer pilot.
These aren't
he just
they
needs
aren't
to believe.
trainees. These are all already the best of the best. But you got to believe that you are.
Yeah, he just has the hesitation about him where he can't get past his own fear and his own limits of like he's more of a safe pilot. He likes being at the
you got to
top,
think
taking
about
things slow.
what happened in his life. Like he's grown up his whole life knowing that his father died because of risks that maybe could have been avoided. Like, it's, even though we know it wasn't Mav's fault and he blames Mav, it doesn't matter either way. If that's the history you had, you're going to fly a little safer than everybody else, knowing everyone knows that you can crash, but to have that experience of this is what it's like after the fact. Like, he's going to have that in the back of his mind every time he does anything, which is why he has to learn, don't think, to just do it.
It's such a simple line too. And it carries the film and his whole character so far.
Mm-hmm.
What I like about this movie is that, it's Top Gun Maverick. It's about Maverick, and it's predominantly focused on him, but it's Rooster's story too. And he has that little conscience, Mav pushing him and Hangman kind of egging him on, but also holding him back, because Hangman's got all of the confidence for himself and he's not going to share it with anybody else. We see Rooster change, I'd say, probably the most in this movie. We see Maverick change, as we'll get into, but
Maverick learns, but
it's like the legacy of Goose and how the people in Goose's life have been affected by him, and it's a great way to tell a story rather than just solely focusing on Mav.
And it goes back to Rooster and Hangman's character when they first reunite again in the bar. And he tells Hangman, "Oh, you look good," and he goes, "I am." He's like, "I am good, Rooster. Yeah. I'm real good," or something like. He gives that line,
and that's all
like,
you need to know about the character. Like,
that's it.
Yeah.
So from that scene, we cut right to Maverick just taking it from Cyclone in a meeting, and he's like, "What kind of stunt was that?" He's like, "Don't ever pull that again." He's going through this whole thing, and he's like, "You're here to teach them." And then Mav gives him the line, "Well, I'm here to teach them how to come home," which was such a good line. It's like, and then it totally put John Hamm in his place.
Yeah. And then just like it just sounds, because he knows that he wasn't even thinking about that. He just needs the mission, and he needs to get that reminder. But like, well, we don't want to just complete it, right? We care about these pilots.
He's putting the humanity back into it, where the detachment that Cyclone has for the mission, it's just a mission, not the humans. It's the pilots. It's very dissociated.
Which is something that you have to have as as that top level admiral general, like you have to be able to be somewhat detached, but you also need someone to just like every once in a while remind you this isn't just a drone. That's the whole point of this movie, is that we want to have a pilot in the box. You need to have that emotion there. They're not just drones that you're flying around. So yeah, it's just
Exactly.
it adds to that overall, like that's the theme of this.
And then we have another great line in this film, as John Hamm is telling him, from now on, I want your mission briefing. I want to know absolutely everything that's happened. And then he says something about the hard deck, and then Tom puts
Yeah.
the thing. He's like, "Well, what's this?" He's like, "Permission to lower the hard deck, sir."
Yeah.
And
He's
it's
like,
such a great comedic timing.
Yeah. He's ready to go. He knows what he's
Yeah.
going to ask for, and it's like, yeah, it was perfect.
We cut to another scene right after this where Mav is bringing Penny the money he owes her for the previous bar tab that he couldn't pay because his credit card maxed out. And then she ends up saying, "Oh, don't even worry about it." It was just clearly
Yeah.
a nice relationship thing for them. And it was just like her getting
She
back
was
at him
just
'cause
giving
she
him a
hasn't
hard
seen
time.
him.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I want to point out, I've noticed this. I've noticed something different every time I watch this film. And I don't know if you guys have noticed this, but the overarching song in this film, Lady Gaga's Hold My Hand at the end of the film, that is their relationship song. Anytime they're together, there's an instrumental version of that song playing in the background.
It starts off with that playing on the radio, diegetic, and then they turn it into the score version once the dialogue starts.
The first time they see each other, it's playing on the radio, like you said, in the bar. And then it plays again instrumentally. They cut from the bar when they're sailing together. And it's more of an adventurous version of it. It's more upbeat. It's like it brings the whole scene together.
But you still keep that theme.
Yeah. The essence of the theme, because later on when they're together at her house, it's like it's more of an intimate version. It's more slowed down, but it's still that same song, and it's like it brings it all the way together towards the end. She has the daughter and he doesn't want to hurt her again, but then she feels the same way, because even after the first time he brought her home, right?
Yeah.
They close the door and
I
she
think
has
that was
that look in her
after,
eyes.
at the end of this scene, when they get home, she's trying so hard to not have the feelings that she has, because you're just afraid. It's like Rooster, you just got to have the confidence for it to let it happen.
Yeah, because he drives her home and she's walking away and she says, "Don't give me that look." And then
again with the looks.
And then he just smiles and he's like, "Nothing." And she says, "Good night, Pete." And then she closes the door, and that's like what you just talked about. She has this look in her eyes, like, she has the butterflies again. It's like, this is the man has loved for years, and it's like now they're slowly reconnecting, but she doesn't want to take that leap because he was gone for so long, and she has something else to think about in her life now. Going on this date with Penny, going sailing, bringing her home, and then it cuts right back to his mission. It cuts to the scene of him giving the briefing the mission to the graduates, telling them that it's not just about flying these planes and setting this bomb off. And he introduces the enemy of time. And time is your enemy, and you have this amount of time to get in and get out before enemy aircraft can intercept you. And so it brings an extra oomph to the mission, because anybody can just go in and fly.
Yeah, you add that pressure of, it's like, okay, it's a tough mission as it is, but now you got to do the hardest thing you've ever done in half the time you've ever done it in.
It's like, how else do you do a movie without a villain? Or how do you make it not a person? It's time. And that's what makes the stakes so high in this movie, because they're racing against something that is always constantly moving forward. And that's why I think like you don't need a bad guy per se. It's just the mission itself that is the thing that they have to overcome.
Because they also introduced that they only have like 2 weeks.
Yeah, there's layers to the time.
I think time is more of an enemy than any actual human villain can be, because it's like you can't even control it. Like, you just have to go. And this is our first time when he's introducing the mission that we get real tension in the group. We know Mav doesn't believe Rooster is ready, but as they're going back and forth, Rooster says, "Oh, it's not the plane, it's the pilot." And then that's when Mav says, "Exactly." And so we get that. And then this is when Hangman intervenes and just gives Rooster the gears. And he brings up, he twists the knife. He brings up Goose and Mav's past, and he's like, crazy, all this, and this. And then that's when those two start brawling in the middle, and then they're trying to break everybody up. And that's when Mav just tells them, "You know what? Everybody go home. This is
just
not a thing." And at that point, this is when we first see their text conversation with Iceman, and Iceman tells, "I need to see you." And that's when we get into the scene where he goes to see Iceman.
Such
we
a
figure
great
out
scene.
Yeah, and we see he's not doing well.
I thought that was really well done, like working his actual health issues into the film, but even just the texting, like keeping him in the story without having to put any of that extra stress on. Like it's not just all of a sudden out of nowhere, hey, where's Iceman? Like he's been in the story, just kind of like subtly worked in.
We get into when Mav meets Ice, and I think what this scene does so well, even though Iceman can't speak, I feel Tom, not only Val Kilmer, like he carries it with just his eyes and his presence alone, but Tom carries this scene so hard because most of the time it's him reading Val's or Iceman's text on the computer screen. It's going back and he really is having an inner dialogue with himself. But Iceman is the physical being there, but it's just like that's when Iceman just says, it's time to let go. And he writes it on the screen, and then his eyes start welling, and he's like, I don't know how. And that there's another hurdle for Tom to get over other than the fact that he's trying to get these pilots home, but it's also he's trying to build that relationship with Rooster because he doesn't want to lose him.
Everything is very pulled in to their faces. It's very intimate because they're close. They've had a long history. They were essentially enemies at the beginning, and now they're close friends, and they have this huge connection, and there's a lot at stake. Like just seeing Maverick's eyes, like when he sees the text, it's time to let go, and it's like he really feels it, and it's just so personal. That visually, I think that was like the heaviest part for me. It's like seeing them so up close, so vulnerable, I guess in this instance. That's what I really loved about this scene.
And you can tell they're close too, even without having Val have dialogue. Like, there's 30 years have passed, but just having Tom break down that easily in front of him knows how connected they are, right?
And having seen how, like, not that he's not emotional, but Tom, like Mav, is very gung-ho. Like he's nothing gets to him. So to see how much this gets to him so quickly, it just helps sell that, like, how serious this is, because this is the guy who can go do loops around, spins up in the air and not even phase him. But this hits him so hard, so fast.
And then what I think is so great about the scene is, as emotional as it was, they do have this bond and they're friends. So Iceman ends it on who's the better pilot. And then Tom just laughs. He says, let's not ruin this moment. And they hug, and that's the end of the scene. But I think it was such a good scene, and it was so necessary for this film because Tom needed someone other than Penny to help push him forward, right?
Yeah.
This scene that's coming up next is the sole reason why this movie made $1 billion.
Yeah.
This scene, not the planes, not anything, not the reason why the movie was amazing, but this scene was all over social media, and it's the classic beach scene.
Yeah. It's not just fan service though.
No, it serves a purpose. It serves a purpose for the film, and it does such a good job. And One Republic song in the background just crushes. And this whole scene is just team building and character building, and this is the first time we see them all working together, having fun. Rooster actually helps Tom off the ground when they're playing football on the beach, and there's just some camaraderie there. And Cyclone shows up, and he's like, "What is this? We're supposed to be training, we want thing." And he's like, "You wanted a team, and this is how we're doing it." And it's like a 3-minute scene. It's the middle of the movie, and it's just like, okay, we have our team now. It's like we had problems in the past, and it was such a good way. It's such an easy way for them to have a team building exercise and have fun and realize there's more to get their minds off of the mission, right?
Exactly, because I think the mission is so high stress that they need some fun. But it's amazing that it's classic Mav being able to inject humanity into it, make it a game, and take their minds off of what's at stake, but make them still learn.
So yeah, I just think the football scene was such a great way to bring the team together. What goes from the next scene into it is such a nice slow down of pace, where it brings us back to Tom's relationship with Penny. And he's driving her home, and she gets off the bike like she did in the first date with the sailing. But this time, I don't know if I've ever seen this in a film done this way, but there was so much confidence. She walks up, and she just keeps walking. The door slowly opens, and she's giving her the thing, and it cuts back to Tom, and he does like the, okay. Yeah. And then it cuts to, honestly, it's one of the best intimate scenes. It fits so well in this movie. It wasn't overdone. Yeah. It really brought the relationship together. It wasn't over the top. It was done so well. And this is where we get another one of those, the music in the background is Hold My Hand, but it's more of like an intimate, slowed down version. And they're really confessing to themselves what they've gone through the past few years that they haven't been around. And Tom tells her information we didn't know is that he pulled his Rooster's papers, but he only did so because his mother
wanted it. Yeah.
made him promise because she didn't want him in a plane.
You learn that weight he's been carrying that no one knows. He's been keeping that a secret, that he's just taking the hate because he needs to, because someone has to.
We find out he just wanted to be the father that he lost.
Mm-hmm.
And he was trying so hard to do so.
Do you guys think this scene, like, how do you think it fits into the story overall? Because for me, it didn't feel like anything slowed down. There was still like tension with it because it had that weight to me. And like you said, Ian, it was a romantic scene. It wasn't like a frisky
hot scene. It
romantic.
wasn't in there just to be like, just to
Yeah.
get people's attention. It was actually for the emotions of the characters and their story arc.
Like, I think the whole for me it did have purpose, like every other scene in this movie.
Well, yeah, the conversation had weight. It wasn't just a meaningless conversation, right? It was a conversation to bring them closer together, but it was also a conversation to push the story even further. And then they capped it off with some comedy,
Yeah,
right?
and then you get that, like, the joke flowed naturally. It wasn't forced. It was, yeah.
The daughter came home and they're like, "Oh, what do we do?" And then
Rushing
she's like,
around, yeah.
"No, don't go down there. Don't go down there. Go out the window." He's like, "Going out the window," and he's like, "This is the last time I'm going out the window." She's like, "Just get out of here." And he's like, then he tells her that he's never leaving her again. And the look she gives him a kiss, and she's like, "Just go, just go." And it's such a good character moment. And he drops out of the window.
Mhm.
It's so funny because Tom Cruise is known for stunts.
Yeah.
And he did it so good. And he just falls and he lands on his back and he's just like getting up because it's like he's just escaping a house. And then the daughter's there and then she just gives "Don't break her heart again." And he gives her this look of sincerity and he's like, "I won't."
That was perfect because, like, it has the joke of him jumping and falling and she catches him. It's like, oh crap. But then it still has that really heartfelt, like, serious, like, just treat her right. And you tell that he means it.
It segues into the next scene so well because the relationship is growing. But we also got more of Mav's personal stakes into this, and it segues into Mav giving them more mission briefing. But this scene made it seem like they were building the impossibility and the difficulty of the scene. And he's just showing them that, death is an option. There's all these obstacles they have to overcome, and the graduates, the crew, doesn't see, you can tell they feel this is an impossible task that they're granted, And which brings us to the next training sequence when they're given the map of the actual mission and they're having to train the terrain, and that's when we get Payback passing out and Mav having to go save him, and then you get Phoenix blowing an engine. Like, the 4 minutes is just like it's building tension. The impossibilities are stacking up, right? And you're just like, I don't know if this is even possible.
It seems like it's like sowing doubt even into the audience. It's like, I don't know if they could do this. Like, what's going to happen here? And every single training scene gets more and more tense. And it's like, we don't know what's going to happen with these people. Is somebody going to get, like, is somebody not going to make it back home? And they keep convincing us that that's a greater and greater possibility with each new training mission.
It just keeps building and building, and it goes into the next scene after the crew finds out, Phoenix is okay. She ejected and she's in the hospital being looked at. And then we get the scene with Maverick and Rooster. The way the scene is portrayed, everything is dark. Everything has a blue tone over it. Like, it's the most serious moment in the film. And this is when Rooster, he asks if Phoenix is going to be okay. And then he really just snaps. He says, why did you pull my papers?
Everything that he's been thinking the whole time that we've been thinking, he just finally lets it out and just...
Yeah. And then he tells him, you weren't ready. I feel like this conversation brought them closer together. I don't think it separated them any farther. I feel like, they were honest with each other. Rooster got what he wanted out of the conversation in a way. He cares about me, but he was still upset that he set him back 4 years.
Yeah. This is where they ripped off the Band-Aid where they can start to heal. Before, it wasn't even an option.
To go from this intense scene to the following scene, having Iceman pass away. It's like one hit after another.
Yeah, it's like he already got hit once, and now, like, the rug has just totally been pulled out.
Even though he had a small role, his death really pushed Mav to understand what he has to do. And it leads into him going back to headquarters, and that's when Cyclone, they ground him, right?
Yeah, he takes him off the mission.
He's no longer in the mission. Yeah, he takes him off the mission, and he's just like, I don't know what to do. And that's when he goes sees Penny. She basically tells him, there's always a way. You always find a way, and you just have to figure out what it is. And he doesn't know what to do, and she's comforting him. And we get the next scene where we're back in the training facility, and then the graduates are being briefed on what's happening, and they're giving them more time, right? Cyclone's giving them more time. There's new parameters. Then all of a sudden we see the F-18 pop up on screen. No one knows what it is, and then we hear Mav
talking to the tower. Like, am I clear?
Mav to range control. Yeah, he says to range control. Everyone realizes it's him, and he tells them to put a time on it for 2 minutes 15 seconds, and everyone's like, that's less time than we were granted. The whole scene is just building towards, can Mav even do this himself? The graduates are like, every time they cut back to him, they're like getting more out of their seat, right? And like this tension is building, and like Mav's getting closer. Yeah.
Then
we're like, oh my god,
the intensity in that scene is just like off the chart.
And he's just running a route. It's not an actual mission. He's running the route, and it's like the time is slowly counting down. Nick, it's just like we were talking about with the Godzilla podcast and the notification guy. We don't need someone telling us how much time is left. Just show us.
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly. We don't need to know every 5 seconds the time. We know that the clock is ticking. We know that there's stakes. Show us that way. Show us his progress through it. Stop breaking that up for us.
And he gets to the point where he has to invert the plane and do the Mach 10, the Mach 9.5. He's slowly blacking out, and he lands the missile, and that's when the timer stops, and he actually beat the time, and everyone's like, oh my god, like the sigh of relief. It's like, oh my god, this mission, it's possible, you know, like he can do this. Like it can be done. And and it caps off the scene. Everyone's like, bullseye, you know, they all yell bullseye. And it feel like the whole group is just like, they're together again at that moment. They're like, oh my god, we can do this mission. We just saw it happen. So after we get, you know, Mav completing the mission on time, it cuts to Cyclone, and he's really having a back and forth with himself about risking his own career, and like he should be fired because he just stole an F-18 and it's no longer flyable, right?
Illegal. Everything you just did is illegal. Like,
yeah.
But it's also exactly what we need.
Yeah, so he appoints Mav team leader to risk his own career, and then he tells Mav he has to pick his teammates because, you know, we're basically at the point of the mission is tomorrow, and so time is now at the essence, and he has no other choice to put Mav in charge.
And even then, you get the little bit of humor where it's like, I think it's a rhetorical question there, Mav.
Yeah,
he doesn't really want you to answer that.
Yeah. Yeah, he steps forward and he's like, no, that's not your time to talk. From there, we get the scene of Mav dressed in his uniform going to say goodbye to Penny. And again, they have the music playing in the background, even slower this time. And they have this little one-on-one outside, and they realize he whispers to her. We don't know what he whispers, but I'm guessing he says, I'm going on this mission. This might be my last, this might be goodbye.
He's not just saying like goodbye for now. He's saying possibly goodbye.
And then it cuts to another great wallpaper looking scenes where he's on the aircraft carrier. The F-18s come down on the elevator and he's standing there. And he looks up and he says, talk to me, Goose. It's the second time he says it in the movie. It was when he needed him the first time. And then when he needed him again, he needs that overhead assurance of like, I'm doing the right thing and we're going to make it home. Goose is his guardian angel and he needs him next to him, right? Yep. And then Warlock says, make us proud. Like they're finally on his side. Yeah. They know he's a good pilot, but there was some back and forth at the beginning throughout the movie. But it says, just make us proud.
I like how Goose is talking just through somebody else. Like he says, talk to me, Goose. And then Warlock is the one who answers him, but he's saying what he needs to hear.
Yeah, it's only done a few times, and it's always a positive answer that comes from somewhere else. And we know that's Goose responding, right? It goes backwards a little bit. It goes back in time as they're prepping to get in the F-18s, right? It shows us who Mav picks as his team. And he picks Payback and Fanboy and Phoenix and Bob. And then he finally picks his wingman, which is Rooster. And the look on Rooster's face, it's like he wanted to be picked, but then at the same time, when he was picked...
He knows what that means.
Yeah, he knows what it means. And we get a great scene on the hangar deck between Hangman and Rooster, and they're looking at each other, and they shake hands, and he just looks at me and says, give him hell. And for the first time, him and Hangman aren't batting heads, right? Hangman wants him to survive. He just has the cocky arrogance of like anybody, right?
He's not a jerk. He just is all about himself.
After that point, Rooster goes up to Mav there's a look on his face, and he says, I just want to say, and he gets cut off by like the speakers and all this other stuff, because there's still that like, will they, won't they make it, right? And Mav says, we'll talk when we get back. Mav believes in Rooster. Rooster just now needs to believe in himself. And then he looks at, as Rooster's walking away, he says, Bradshaw, and he turns around and he says, you got this. Miles almost has like a sigh of relief to him, but then it's just like he realizes that this is it, right?
It's the thing that he needed to hear.
So we have a line where Hondo gets up there and, he gives his, it was a pleasure working by your side. And he says, I don't like that look, Mav. It comes back, right?
Yeah.
And then this is the second time Mav says it's the only one I got, because they said it at the beginning of the movie when he was telling Mav, we have to go Mach 10, right? We have to do the whole thing. And he said it then, but now it's more of like, this, I'm saying goodbye to one of my good friends.
Yeah. Before it was, I don't like that look that you got. You're going to do something that you shouldn't be. And now it's like, I don't like it. You don't think you're coming back. And I don't like that.
And then the pilots get ready to take off. And then we get a cut to Cyclone in the pit inside the ship. And he says, send them. It's one of the coolest lines. It's like the way he says it. He says, send them. And then
send them.
And then it cuts to the F-18 and the jet, the engine fuel just goes. And it's like,
and you get this one shot of him actually taking off of the carrier in like cockpit, like point of view. So good. Just
a like fist in the air, like cheering, ready to go.
And you can tell Tom actually did that scene because he like, when the plane came off the boat, he like went down and had to come back up.
It's an actual real life one take. Like it happened. And
he launched an F-18, which is insane to think about. The tension is at its ultimate peak right now. The sky is very gloomy, right? There's no sun. Everything is mellow, right? There's the sense of worry and doubt and like, okay, the mission is coming. There's the weight. They say dagger attack, and then they let all the missiles go. And I think it's one of the coolest shots.
With all those
the missiles are flying overhead. Oh my God, it's so cool. And it has the camera on the side of the F-18 so you can see it like go off into the distance. Oh my gosh. Just geeking out. The missiles fly overhead, and then Mav says attack formation. And it's so cool. And I love when planes go into formation. They're just, they spread out and they go back into their lines, right? And they have Mav in the front. He has his two pair of Phoenix and Bob. And then you have Rooster, then you have Payback and Fanboy behind him. You're stressed out. Like me and Ian, I know when we first watched this, I was sweating in my chair. Like, I was like, oh my God.
I feel like my heart rate was elevated almost the entire movie. Like I felt it. I wish I had like an Apple Watch to check, because it totally would have been like, you're running right now.
Yeah.
And this is when Mav starts the countdown. 2 minutes, 30 seconds, go. And then everyone else follows 2:30. And then I think everything goes silent, and they press go, and he enters the cavern, right? And then it's like, oh my God, like the real stress kicks in, not even before. It's just like it kicks in now, and like the fear is at an all-time high. And you're going through the cavern, and then Mav says a line. He tells you to take note of the missiles overhead. And then it goes to like Rooster's point of view, and you can see the up angle of these missiles, and it's just like the most terrifying thing he's ever seen.
It almost feels like there's an intent behind the missiles. Like it's like an actual enemy that like you can feel the intimidation there.
It's broadcasting the risks that are at stake here. And that's the thing. We've seen all of this before. We've gone through the training, and it was already tense back then, but now it's the real deal. And it's just being reinforced. We're going into the trench. We're seeing the altitude cap that they can go to because of those.
If you go any higher,
ground to air missiles. Everything that we've been stressing about is now reality for the characters.
And we feel the stress just as much as they do.
Oh yeah.
And at this point, Rooster, the second he sees that missile, his confidence just drops.
Yeah.
And you could tell, it cuts back to the boat, and you can see on the map they're falling behind. And Payback and Fanboy are like, come on, Rooster, we got to go. We're falling behind. Like, we're running out of time. And then to add more stress to the mix, 2 bandits come up on the radar, and they're like, what is going on? They're like, they don't know we're here. We're okay. But they will the second those missiles hit, right? The base. And then the missiles hit the base, and they turn right around.
So another ticking clock on top of everything else.
And at that point, they increase speed, but Rooster still does nothing. And Payback and Fanboy are like, come on, like, we have to move. And then he says, it's time to turn and burn. This is one of the first time they say it from the
Yeah.
first movie, turn and burn. And then he's still hesitant. And then one of the best lines in the film, it cuts to Rooster's like right on a front shot, and he says, "Talk to me, Dad."
Mhm.
And it's not Goose who
But
responds.
yeah,
It's Maverick, and he says, "Come on, kid, don't think, just do." And it's the second time he said it from earlier because at this point he knows he can do it. And then the second Mav says that, Rooster just puts it in gear, and then Payback and Fam are like, "Oh, whoa,
yeah, like,
we got to catch up
not
now."
that fast.
Yeah,
Geez.
not that fast.
Yeah.
But I just love the "don't think, just do" line. Like the fatherly relationship he has, the love he has for Rooster, and it's just the whole scene. Talk to me, Dad, and then Maverick responds,
Yeah.
and then he just goes.
That call and response motif throughout the movie is just like, it gets you every single time. You're like, oh, I wasn't expecting a response, and then boom, there
and then
it is.
they do. Yeah.
And it's not who we expect. It's great. Oh.
And then the bombs hit the runway, and then Team 2, they're going over the top, right? They're at the point where they have to hit the peak and turn their F-18 over and go into the valley to hit the shot. Bob's a little slow. His sensor's not really working that fast, but then he finally gets it. They land the first shot, and it cuts back to the boat, and they're like, "Oh, there's prayer number one. There's
because if that hadn't worked, it's game over.
Yeah,
as it is.
Game over."
Exactly.
And then Rooster and them catch up, and Fanboy, his camera's done. He's got dead eye. There's nothing to it. And then Rooster's like, "No, I just got to do this. I got to just blind it." He's got to blind shot it, and he bullseye, lands
the
it
force,
right in the thing,
Luke.
and he just
I've
crushes it.
He's turned off his target locator.
And then that blows up, and it's one of the cool. The explosion of the ground looks so good.
We're just kind of craters out in the stages. Yeah.
Oh, it's so good. And then they're hitting, their 9.5 altitude, and they're trying to get out of it. And at this point, we're like, okay, the mission is a success, but now,
now the real fun
begun.
starts.
Yeah.
Now it's a dogfight. And then smoke's in the air. They're yelling smoke in the air. And this point, the chaos is crazy because Mav's trying to talk to Rooster. He's like, "Where you at? Are you okay?" And they're all out, and then missiles are just going off.
The first time watching it, like everything is just so much. But like I've noticed that a lot more watching it after, is that they really do such a good job of showing how much of a chaotic situation this is, because up till then they were all like super like prepared and organized, and everything was a well-oiled machine, and you just hear chatter here, chatter there, explosions everywhere, they're all crossing each other, yelling everything, and it's like, this is just pure chaos.
And the stress that's conveyed to us as the audience is like, oh, everything's happening all at once. It really is that like out of the frying pan into the fire. Just one more thing to deal with, and it's something that we knew could have happened but didn't want.
Right. And then all the pilots, they're running out of missiles. Rooster runs out of flares. He's like, "I'm out of flares," but there's one last missile that's on him. And then Mav makes the sacrifice. He pulls it back, goes over top of Rooster, exits the flares, knocks the first missile, but then he gets taken out by the second one. He makes a sacrifice play. And then everyone else, like all the other pilots, are like freaking out. They're like, "Mav's down. Where's Mav?" Rooster's panicking. And then at that point, Cyclone just says, "Listen, Mav he did what he did. We have to get the rest of them out of there. We have to get him out." And then they just don't want to do it. And they're like, "This is a direct order. Like, I want you out of there. You need to come back to base." And then you get a tight shot on Rooster's eyes, and then it cuts to black. And it's like, oh my God, like, did Mav
this is the guy who always follows like the orders, Rooster. So he's not Mav. And so you think, okay, well, this is it then. Like,
Mav's, we don't know if he survived, right? It cuts to black, or like, the heart's racing at this point. A fade in from black to Maverick lying in the snow, and it cuts in on his eyes, and he's okay. We see he's okay. But at that point, the Apache helicopter comes up, and Mav is just like, he's got to go.
So
he's
good.
running so hard. And then the Apache just starts the machine gun, and Mav barely gets out of that. It's like the Jurassic Park moment where he hops over the tree and hides.
I loved how the helicopter almost, like, obviously it has a pilot in it, but it felt like a sentient, like a dragon or something. Like it is a predator and it's coming to get you.
The enemies they're not people here. They're the things, the obstacles that stand in our protagonist's way.
Because if you notice, all the vehicles of the enemies are tinted.
Yeah, they're all blacked out, so it's you don't know who's inside. It's just like just a monster coming after you.
And then when the Apache comes around the corner with the tree, it's scary as hell. And then Tom's like, okay, that's it. And then all of a sudden you see it's about to unleash its machine gun, and then the missiles come and blow it up, and you see the plane fly by, but you don't know who it is. You have an idea, but then it cuts to Rooster, and then Mav looks up and he's just like, what are you doing? And then Rooster gets shot down because he has no other way to defend himself.
No
and then
flares.
He gets shot down, and then and he goes on another one of his great running scenes in all
his
his
films.
films.
Tom sprint. Yeah.
Tom's running, and Rooster's fine because he ejected. You see him eject. He's falling. And then he's packing up his parachute, and Tom's running. He's like, are you okay? Are you okay? And he just pushes him over, and he's like, what are you doing?
All right,
he's like, what do you mean? What am I doing?
You're an idiot.
Yeah. He's like, what are you doing? He's like, what were you thinking? He's like, you told me not to think. And then at that point, Tom's like, no, that's true. I did tell him that.
Okay, I can't argue with that fact.
And tension falls, and he's like, well, it's good to see you. And he's like, it's good to see you too. And then they're just like, well, what's the plan? And they don't have any plan. And Tom's like, he has the look on his face. He's like, I think I have some kind of a plan. And it cuts to them at the base, and they're like binoculars peeking over, seeing what they can do. And he was going to steal one of their planes. And Rooster's like, I don't know. What is we can't do this, you know?
Is this happening for real? Like,
that's honestly what I thought in the movie. I was like, is this actually happening? Are we having essentially a heist and escape scene right now? Rather than like, I'm expecting a Top Gun movie. I'm expecting fighter jets all the time. It's like, no, we're gonna steal something now. That it was a fresh, like something fresh that is happening right near the end of the movie. Just a nice way to mix it up.
And then they're spying, and then Mav goes, all right, let's go. And then Rooster's like, okay. And he's like, sure. They're walking, and then Rooster's like, I think we should start running. And Mav's like, yeah, I think we should start running. And they start running because there's chaos everywhere because, explosions just happen, and there's pilots running, and they're trying to blend in, and they get to the F-14, and Mav's like telling them what to do. He's like, pull the keys, when the needle gets here, pull the ladder when I get up. And it's just like, everything's happening so fast, and I feel like they're one mind. They're finally on the same page with each other.
Yeah, there's no resistance. He's not trying to talk back or like hold him, blame him for anything. It's just, all right, yep, let's get it done.
Yeah, he trusts him, and he accepts like the role that they both have to play in this part to survive.
Yeah, and then Mav gets in the plane, and he's looking around. He's like, it's been a long time, Mav. It's like, this is an old piece. And then Miles Teller gets in. He's like, what is this museum piece we're riding in? He's like, what is there's so much stuff here. He's like, nothing's working. Radar's off. There's so many, breakers behind there. And one of my favorite parts is when Mav ejects. He pulls the switch to bring out the wings. And then Rooster, it cuts to his scene.
Why are the wings going out?
He puts his head on the window, and he's like, hey, Mav, why are the wings coming out?
Because we're thinking the same thing. Like, why are the wings coming out?
Yeah, he's like, this is not a runway, Mav. And he just goes, he's like, just, buckle up and let's do this. And he finally gets the needle to where it goes, and then he takes off, and it clips the wheels, so he has no landing gear, but he barely makes it out. And that's when they get into the air. They're flying home, and Rooster activates his GPS, right? So the boat now realizes he's alive. And then it cuts to Cyclone, and he's like, oh, Maverick, they're going Mach 10, like they're hyperspeed kind of thing. They have two planes come up on them, right? Enemy planes, as they're just talking back and forth. And then Mav goes, just put on your helmet, just smile and wave and smile and wave. Yeah, act casual. And then the guys start giving him the signals, and then Rooster's like, oh, what does that mean? And then Mav's like, I have no idea. And then he does another one, and he's like, what about that one? And then Mav's like, yeah, I've never seen that one either.
Nope, that can't be good.
They're just in this like state of like, we got to do something. And then the planes start to back off and go into
shift
attack
their
formation.
Orientation.
And then we get another amazing scene of Rooster now giving the pep talk to Maverick.
Yeah.
Right? Mav tells him to grab the handles, get ready to eject. Rooster he says, you would do this if I wasn't here. And then Mav says, I know it's because you're here that I can't do this. And it's like, that's when Rooster gives him the line back. He says, it's not the plane, it's the pilot. Because he asks if he can outrun this. And he says, not the plane, it's the pilot. And then at that point, Mav gets a look in his eye, and he just cranks that plane to the side and takes out the first plane, no problem. And then it's a massive dogfight. I was so stressed, dude.
The whole time. And everything happens so quickly after that.
Yeah.
And probably what it's like in real life. You have no time to think. Again, don't think.
That's why
just
you
do.
have to, yeah, exactly. Because when you're up there and you're going that fast, it's like in the time it takes you to think for 1 second, you've already traveled a kilometer. You have to be able to react that quickly.
So yeah, then they're dogfighting in the valley, right? They're going back and forth, and they're firing missiles and they're dodging stuff. And then at that point, Rooster is like, do some of that pilot shit, Mav, which Goose said to
It's a
Mav in the
callback,
first
yeah.
movie. Yeah. So he dodges him, and now he's behind, and they're out of missiles, but he's working he still has the gun left, so he's using the gun, and he's running out of bullets, and he gets to about 33, and he says to himself, he's like, "Come on, Mav," and he hits the pilot. And then the pilot's forced to eject, and the plane crashes into the thing. And they think they're out of dodge, right? And they're like all good, and they're out of bullets, they're out of nothing, and they rise up into the sky again, and they think they're home free and they're ready to go. And then they get another alert on the GPS that there's a bogey, and they're like, "Where is he? We don't know where he is." And it cuts, and it's right in front of them,
just like
it's coming
staring
right
you
through his
down.
nose. This scene, me and Ian, we're both thinking the exact same thing. The fighter jet goes around, and they're chasing him now. And at this point, Mav pulls the thing, and he flies over top. Yeah. And he uses the last missile, I think it was. But then the plane does this 360 side spin.
It just starts side spinning all the way down. And we have the same reaction as they did. Okay. We're like, what was that?
Yeah, me and Ian looked at each other, we're like, what? And
Is
then,
that even possible?
And then Rooster says the only F word in the movie, and he's like, what the And it was so earned. I was like, this is exactly what we're thinking. This is the craziest thing we've seen in this movie, other than Mav going, Cobra style on Rooster earlier in the film.
Yep.
And at this point, they don't have any flares left. They don't have any bullets.
Yeah,
they're outgunned. Their plane is a disaster. F-14 to this new plane they're fighting. And then Mav says, okay, this is the time. I need you to pull the eject handles,
which
right?
also has to be like for Mav a bit of a trigger because of what happened last time. He had somebody eject from that plane.
Yeah,
exactly.
And so he's pulling up. They're going straight up into the air as fast as possible, right? They're getting chased by this thing, and then Rooster's pulling the eject handles, and nothing's happening. And then Mav at this point, he's like, "I've lost another," he's thinking to himself,
he's thinking it's my fault. I did this, and then you get the enemy fighter coming behind him, and it's I couldn't help but think, because I was thinking about Star Wars the whole time, that he has the "I have you now" sort of like Vader's got him in his sights, and he's about to do it.
And at that point, everything slows down for us, and it cuts to Mav, and he says, "I'm sorry, Goose." And the ship behind him is just about to launch their missile, and then all of a sudden it explodes. And you're like, oh my God, what just happened? And then Hangman comes in. Hangman comes in, and he's like, "This is your savior speaking." And at this point, we're giving a round of applause, because we never disliked Hangman in the first place. He was the cocky, arrogant type that we liked. He gave on, he was likable, but he says, "This is your savior speaking." And then Rooster says, "You look good." And then Hangman says, I am good, Rooster. I'm very good. And it's just like, I'll see you back at the base. Oh, it's such a good scene.
It's just like fists in the air cheering. When you guys were at the theater, did people clap?
Oh, people cheered. Yeah, it was loud.
Yeah. Okay. That's what I imagined.
We were at a smaller theater for this too, but the people that were there,
it wasn't thundering, but there was a reaction.
That's pretty cool.
And then we cut to them just flying back to the plane. And to make matters worse, they've already been through enough. And then they lose an engine, and then Rooster's like, "Don't tell me we just lost an engine." And Mav goes, "Okay, then I won't tell you."
I love not just what he says, but how he says it. He's like, "Okay, I won't tell you."
The whole crew on the ship is coming to celebrate them. And every time I watch it, I've seen this movie 5 times, and I get emotional every time. Hangman goes up to Rooster. They shake hands. They have this nod of like, the respect is there now.
They have the Iceman and Mav, because that's exactly what happened with them. They finally, after being through that trial together, respect each other, and that's exactly what.
Right. And then you see Rooster go to Mav, and they have this embrace. They hug, and then Mav says, "Thank you for saving my life." And then Rooster says, "That's what my dad would have done." And finally, the weight has been lifted. And now their relationship is 100%. And it's like the music is swelling, and you believe it. Like, you just went through the grind. Like, you're so stressed out. It's like the heart's beating, and then finally you have that embrace that's like they accept each other, and it says, "Thank you for saving my life." And it's just the emotions were running.
I can't say enough good about that ending.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it
Like
just
the climax, the build up, everything about it. It's just there's sentiment, there's love and passion, and everybody gets each other at the end. There's
Yeah.
no animosity. That everybody's just like, yep, we're a team.
it just has that classic like feel good, like it felt like an old school movie, like this is like they made it, they did it, they did the thing, everybody's like together, and yeah, you just get that, it just makes you feel good. You just like, yes, like
Yeah,
you get that energy that they're all the characters are feeling in it.
exactly. And it ends on that high note. It's like there's no more extra stuff. It's there. You're feeling good. Movie's like pretty much done.
Yeah, because at that point they hug and it cuts to black, and it goes back to the beginning of the movie.
Yeah,
It's the
we're back
same
in the
exact
hangar.
shot. They're
Yeah,
back in the hangar. He's working on his plane. It's the same exact camera pan, except this time, Rooster walks in, and it's just like they're together. If they're not, he's not alone. They're together. They're father son, you know. And then Rooster starts working on the plane, and Mav looks around, and then Penny's daughter. He sees Penny's daughter there, and then at this point, you know, the hold my hand is starting to swell.
Mm-hmm.
It's
yep,
coming. And then he peeks around the plane. He comes underneath and he sees Penny there with her car. And at that point, he walks towards her. It's swelling. And then the actual words of the song come in and they embrace each
Mm-hmm.
other. This is the first time in the movie where the song having actual dialogue now is fulfilling their whole relationship that's happened in the entire movie. It's like, this is it. They're finally one, you know, and they just fly off and the song swells. And that's the credits. Like the character credits roll.
yeah,
Yeah.
And like
yep.
it's one of the best endings.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's a good send off for Maverick. Like after all this time, it's like he's got an actually good ending.
A
Yeah.
reason to leave like all that behind. He's ready,
Exactly.
and everything has come together, and
And the song is so good. It's like
Oh,
you feel so
it's classic.
triumphant.
Like yeah, it's triumphant.
Mhm.
It goes back to that '80s feel. Just like heck yeah.
And it's the song is called Hold My Hand, and that has so many meanings. It's like when you have that faith in them, like, you know, there's a bond there, and that's like his relationship with her. It's like they're finally together. He has somebody he can love and put this life behind, right? He's left Rooster. Rooster is his own man. He's got over that hurdle. Rooster can now lead his crew and he can finally retire, right? He can go
Mhm.
off and have his own. He flies off into the sunset. That's
Yeah,
basically what happens.
literally.
Exactly.
So to cap this off, this movie. A while ago I arranged my top 25 of all time. This movie was my number 3, but I think it has to move up at least one. Like it's easily my
it's
top 2
reasonable.
movies. I can watch it again if I just watched it today. I can go back and watch it
Yeah,
again.
yeah.
This
I think
movie
I
is so well
watched
done.
it probably. Well, when it came out on video, I watched it 3 times within like a week. That was
Yeah,
yeah.
like that doesn't happen to other
I
movies, you know.
watched it, and then I went to a friend's house and was like, "Hey, you want to watch Top Gun? I just watched it yesterday. Sure, yeah."
I watched
And
it the first time I watched it on a plane. And I was
That's
like I was
a little bit
like
meta.
squirming in my seat the whole time, and then I was like, I have to watch it again. And like a day later, I watched it. And I was
yeah,
like, wow, it's like a new experience each time you watch it.
I agree.
Hmm.
I find something new I see every time I watch it.
Yeah,
It's like, oh, there's that detail, there's that detail, and I feel the exact same. Even though I've seen it 5 times, I'm still stressed out every time they go into the valley.
yeah.
Yep.
Like the tension's there. It's built so well.
I was gonna say, I noticed the last time I watched it, something I didn't notice, just as like a small detail, like when Mav goes to save Rooster from those missiles, he does the same, like kind of like pull the brakes and sweep up over top of him, the exact same thing that he did the first like time when he takes him out. The exact same move,
Yeah.
just a small
That's
detail.
cool. I didn't
but it's
notice
like,
that. Yeah.
yeah, like the
No.
exact, not the Cobra one where he flips on top, but like where he's given like Rooster saying, "Come on, take your shot, take your shot." No, okay, and he just pulls the brake, sweeps over top, and hits him, and he does the
Yeah.
exact same thing there.
How do you guys think this movie will hold up in 15, 20, 30 years?
I think better than the original, even because unlike so many other things, the effects aren't going to age. That's just what things look like, and
Exactly.
the story is so timeless that you're not gonna go past it and be like, oh yeah, really, that's such like a corny thing. Like I think it's gonna hold up really well.
Yeah. The story is simple. The characters are all great. It flows so well. There's the tension is always going to be there. The soundtrack, the nostalgia. It's like this is our Top Gun for
Yeah.
our generation. But like Ian said, the effects are all real, so nothing's ever going to be outdated.
You're not going to come back and be like, oh wow, the CG on this movie is so bad now that we have better computers. It's like, well, no, that's just what planes look like when they fly.
It's there.
Yeah.
Yep.
And it's a simple story, right? They've told simple stories countless times. Like you can look at films from the 50s and 60s and 70s that hold up today. It's just a simple story, right?
That's what gets the job done for me in terms of story. It's like, keep it simple, keep it consistent, and take me along for the ride. Keep me at the edge of my seat, keep me guessing throughout. And add things that just, tickle us a little bit each time.
I was going to say that, like, about how the simple story, like even this one, it's very clearly inspired by at least a lot of the beats of the original Star Wars, but that itself was inspired by the serial like shows from way back when, which were inspired by the novels. Like you don't have to tell a new story or an intricate one to make it like resonate. You just have to add your own flair to it. Like it's not a copy of Star Wars. It has elements you can catch that are like clearly inspired by, but it does so many new things to it that it's like taking and updating the story for a new generation sort of thing.
Plus, all the relationships in this movie are so real. They're all believable. Yeah. All the characters are believable. They're all likable. The emotions they go through as well. It's like you feel it as an audience member. And every time you watch it, you're still engaged. So I feel like 10 years, 20 years from now, it's still going to be in my top 5 of all time. Like,
oh, yeah.
11 out of 10 for me.
Yeah. There's nothing wrong with the film at all.
No, yeah. You struggle to try and find something to pick apart.
So on that note, I want to thank everybody for listening. This has been 2 hours on a Sunday, us talking about Top Gun Maverick.
Great.
Time to turn and burn.
Movie.
Time to turn and burn.
Thank you very much, everybody, for tuning in. I'm Nick.
I'm Brian.
I'm Ian. Thanks for letting me join.
And we'll catch you guys next time.